My granddaughter walks out of her own wedding when her ex roared up the gravel drive on a motorbike shouting that he'd never stop loving her. I told the 140 guests the bar was open and the hangi was already in the ground, so we may as well eat. 4 days later, she rang me crying from a service station outside Taupō because the boy had left her there with no wallet, no phone charger, and no way home. And by the time she begged me to fix it all, I'd already changed the locks she thought she still had a key to. I'm 73. I've buried a wife, 2 brothers, and most of my mates from the freezing works, and I thought I'd run clean out of things that could properly surprise me. I was wrong. Her name's Tessa. She's 26, and I raised her from the time she was 9, after my daughter passed and the father went walkabout and never came back. So I wasn't the grandfather standing politely at the back of that wedding. I was the one giving her away. I'd had the suit pressed. I'd practiced the walk down the marquee aisle on our back lawn 3 nights running so my hip wouldn't let me down. I had a speech folded in my breast pocket that I'd written and rewritten until the ink had worn through in places. The wedding was out at a vineyard near Martinborough, the kind of place with rows of grapes running off toward the hills and a long white marquee with the sides rolled up to let the afternoon in. The groom was a decent young fella called Hugh, an electrician, steady, the sort who fixes things without being asked and never mentions it after. He adored her. Anyone with eyes could see it. He was standing up the front in a grey suit with his hands shaking, and I remember thinking, good lad, that's the right amount of nervous. I had Tessa on my arm. She looked like her mother had looked, which still catches me in the chest after all these years. The string trio started up. We took the first few steps. You don't mistake a bike like that for anything else. It came up the gravel hard, gravel spitting, engine screaming, and it didn't slow until it was practically at the edge of the marquee. The boy threw it down, actually dropped it on its side in the grass like it was nothing, and came striding in still in his helmet, pulling it off as he walked. His name was Cody, Tessa's old boyfriend from her early 20s, the one who'd treated her like an option for 3 years and then dropped her the week she finally stopped waiting. I knew the face. I'd never liked it. Don't, he said, loud. To her, only to her, like the rest of us were furniture. I have stood in a lot of quiet rooms in my life. Funerals, the doctor's office, the day they told me about Margaret. None of them were as quiet as that marquee. 140 people, and you could hear the canvas creaking in the breeze. I felt Tessa's hand go cold on my arm. I gave it a squeeze. I thought I was steadying her. I thought she was about to tell this clown to clear off so we could get on with her life. I was already half turned toward Hugh with a little smile, getting ready to keep walking. She let go of my arm. I want to tell you I understood it in the moment, but I didn't. I just stood there like a fence post while my granddaughter looked at this boy, then at Hugh, then back at the boy, and her whole face came apart. The bouquet. And then she walked to Cody, took his hand. The 2 of them went back down the aisle and out into the sun, and a moment later the bike fired up and tore off down the drive, and the dust hung in the air over the grapes long after the sound was gone. Hugh stood up the front, not moving. His best mate had a hand on his shoulder. Hugh's mum had both hands over her mouth. Somewhere, a child started crying because the grown-ups had all gone strange. I'll tell you the honest truth. For about 10 seconds, I felt the floor go out from under me. The shame of it, not for me. For Hugh, standing there in his good suit with 140 people staring, made a fool of in front of everyone he'd ever known, by a girl I'd raised. So I did the only thing I could think of. I walked. Right, I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Well, that's not how the rehearsal went. A bit of nervous laughter. Good. Laughter's a rope you can throw people. Here's where we are, I said. There's a hangi been cooking in the ground since 6 this morning. There's enough food up that marquee to feed the district. There's a bar that's paid for whether we drink it or not. Now, I don't know about you lot, but I didn't put on my good suit to drive home hungry. I looked over at Hugh. Son, you didn't do a thing wrong today. Not one thing. You stay, you eat, your family as far as I'm concerned, wedding or no wedding. And the strangest thing happened. People stood up. They came over and shook Hugh's hand. His mates closed around him. Somebody got the music going again. It was the saddest, best party I've ever been to. Hugh got quietly, properly drunk, and his uncle drove him home about 10, and before he went he found me and shook my hand with both of his and said, "Thank you for that, Mr. Bahatu," and I had to look away because my own eyes had gone. Tessa rang me twice that night. I let it ring out both times. I'm not proud of that exactly, but I needed to not say something I couldn't take back. The first text came near midnight. "Granddad, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to me. Please, can we talk? I read it. I put the phone face down on the bench. I made myself a cup of tea I didn't drink, and I sat at the kitchen table in my wedding suit until the sun came. The next morning, my phone was a disgrace. Messages from people who'd been at the wedding, half of them lovely, half of them already telling me how I ought to feel. And one from Tessa's auntie on her father's side, a woman called Maxine I'd met maybe 4 times in my life, informing me that Tessa was in pieces and that family forgives family and that I needed to be the bigger person. I'd given that girl 26 years of my life. I wasn't sure how much bigger a person was meant to get. I didn't answer any of it. About midday, Tessa rang again, and this time I picked up, because a man can only dodge his own granddaughter for so long. "Granddad!" She was crying. "Thank God, I've been trying you all night." "I know." A pause. Taupō. Taupō, we came up here to talk, to work things out. He booked a motel. He booked a motel, I said. Right. It's not like that. Nothing happened. We just talked. And Granddad, I realized, I don't even want him. I think I've always just wanted him to want me. And now that he does, I don't. I want to come home. I want to fix this with Hugh. I made a horrible mistake. I looked out the window at the empty clothesline. Where's Cody now? Another pause, longer. That's the thing. He left this morning. We had a row. He said I was difficult, that I ruined the moment, and he took off on the bike and he's not answering. And Granddad, my phone's about to die. I left my purse at the vineyard. I made a horrible, and God forgive me, I nearly laughed. I had to hold the phone away from my face. 26 years and the universe had wrapped the whole lesson up in a single afternoon and handed it to her outside a BP on the desert road. So let me make sure I got it, I said. You left a man who'd have crossed the country for you, in front of everyone we know, for a fella who couldn't make it to lunch before he left you stranded with no money in a town, 3 hours from home. When you say it like that, there's only one way to say it, love. That's what happened. Can you come and get me? Please! Then I'll come home and we can sort everything out and— Home, I said. Where's home, Tessa? She went quiet, because you and Hugh put down on that place in Greytown together, I said. You'll be sorting that out with him and the bank, not with me. As for the sleep out, I had a fella come round this morning and put a new lock on the gate. Your things will be in boxes by the carport when you find your way back. You can collect them. You won't be stopping. Granddad, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. After everything, you do this to me. And that's the bit that stopped me. Do this to you. I sat with that for a second. I didn't do anything to you, Tessa, I said. You did this. Yesterday morning you had a good man, a roof, a family, and a grandfather who'd have walked over hot coals for you. By yesterday afternoon you'd thrown the lot in the dirt. Her phone died, or she hung up. I'll never know which. Either way, the line went dead and I sat there a while, and then I rang her old school friend Bex, who I knew was sensible, and I told her where Tessa was and asked her quietly to go and fetch her so the girl wasn't stuck overnight. I'm hard, but I'm not cruel. I just wasn't going to be the one to do it. Then it started in earnest. Maxine again. 3 voicemails, each one angrier. Tessa's father's people, who'd never sent so much as a birthday card in 20 years, suddenly full of opinions about family loyalty. A cousin I'd not seen since a tangi in 2009 telling me I'd always been a cold old bugger. My own sister Glenys rang. The pressure didn't let up for a fortnight. It came at me from every direction, and every single time it was the same shape. She's so sorry, she's so young, family forgives, be the bigger man. Nobody, not one of them, said a word about Hugh. Hugh, who'd done nothing but love her and got humiliated in his good suit for the trouble. It was as if the lad had simply evaporated the moment he stopped being useful to the story. Tessa herself worked through other people's phones, because I'd blocked her own. She'd ring me off her flatmate's number, off Maxine's, once off a number I didn't know at all, and every time it was the same. Let me explain. Let me come home. I'll do anything, please. I stopped picking up numbers. I didn't. He came round about 3 weeks after, on a Sunday, with a box. My box, it turned out. A casserole dish of Margaret's that had ended up at their flat somehow, and a few of my tools Tessa had borrowed and never returned. He'd packed them carefully. That was Hugh all over. We sat on the back step with a beer each. You didn't have to bring those round, I said. Felt wrong keeping them. He turned the bottle in his hands. You doing all right, Mr. Pohatu? I had to laugh. Here's the boy she humiliated asking after me. I should be asking you that, son. He looked out at the garden a while. I keep going over it, he said. Whether I missed something, whether there were signs. There weren't. He nodded slowly. Then he said the thing I've thought about ever since. I don't hate her, you know. I just don't trust her. And I don't think you can build a life on the second one without the first. He finished his beer. I forgive her even. I just can't be married to someone I'd always be watching the door for. I've been around a long time, and I've not often heard a thing put better than that. Tessa finally turned up in person about a month in. I was out the front mowing, and she pulled up in a borrowed car and got out, and she'd lost weight, and she looked terrible, and for one weak moment the grandfather in me wanted to drop the mower and go to her. I switched it off instead.
Your boxes are by the carport,
I said. Granddad. I'm looking at you right now, I said. I'm looking at you very carefully. What do you want me to do? Tell me what to do and I'll do it. I don't want you to do anything, I said. You can't undo it. That's the part I don't think you've understood yet. You keep talking like there's a right thing you can say to me and it'll all go back. There isn't. It's done. You did a thing in front of everyone we know to a man who loved you, and you can be sorry about it for the rest of your days. I hope you are. But sorry doesn't put the bouquet back in your hands. She cried then properly, the way she used to when she was small and the world had been unfair. And I'll be straight with you. It took everything I had but I thought about Hugh on that back step. You can't build a life on trust you've already watched walk out the door. And I thought, if I take her back the moment she's hurting with no cost, no reckoning, then what exactly have I taught her? That the people who love you will always be there to catch you no matter how hard you throw yourself away. That's not love. That's just a soft place to keep making the same fall. I'll tell you what I want, I said, gentler now. I want you to go and build something on your own, 2 feet for once. Get a job. Get a room. Apologize to that boy properly, not because it'll get you anything, because it won't, but because he's owed it. And don't come knocking on me to fix what you broke, when you've spent a year or two. She wiped her face. That's not forgiveness. It's the only kind worth anything, I said. The kind that makes you better instead of just letting you off. She took the boxes, she drove away, and I went back to mowing the lawn, and I'll not pretend my hands were steady on the handle. That was a bit over 2 years ago now. She did it, in the end. Took her a while, and a rough patch I heard about second-hand, and won't repair here. But she got a job at a garden centre out Carterton way, then a better one managing it. Got herself a little flat. And about 8 months back she wrote me a letter. An actual letter, posted, 3 pages. And there wasn't a single please in it asking for anything. It was just an apology. A real one. She'd written to Hugh too, she said, not expecting anything, just because he was owed it. He'd written back.
They're not getting back together. He's seeing a lovely girl from his work now, and good on him. But he told her he forgave her, and that he hoped she'd be happy, and she said reading that broke something open.
I'm not going to stand here and tell you I did it all right. I've lain awake plenty of nights wondering if I was too hard on a grieving girl who'd lost her mother young and never quite found her feet. Maybe. I'm an old man and I get things wrong. But here's what I've come to, for whatever an old fella's worth to you. Forgiveness and rescue are not the same thing, and we do terrible damage when we confuse them. You can forgive someone completely and still let them carry the weight of what they did, because that weight is sometimes the only teacher that ever gets through. The kindest thing I ever did for that girl wasn't catching her. It was letting her feel the ground. And love. Real love, the kind worth building a life on, isn't the grand gesture roaring up the drive on a motorbike at the last minute. It's the steady fella in the grey suit who fixes things without being asked and never mentions it after. Tessa couldn't tell the difference at 24, and it cost her nearly everything to learn. Most of us learn it cheaper. Some of us never learn it at all. So if you've got a Hugh in your life, someone steady, someone who's there on the ordinary Tuesdays and not just when the music's playing, you hold on to that with both hands. The fireworks always look brighter, but you can't warm your old bones on a firework. You warm them on a hearth that's still burning long after the show's gone dark. That's all I know. An old man. I've turned it over plenty since, why it all fell the way it did, and I keep landing in the same place. Tessa didn't end up stranded outside that service station because the world was cruel to her. She got there one choice at a time. The moment she let go of my arm in that marquee, she set something rolling downhill, and every locked gate and empty couch and unanswered phone after that wasn't bad luck arriving. It was just the bill. We're fond of calling these things fate, but most of the time fate is only the sum of what we've done finding its way back to the front door. Here's the thing I'd want a younger person to take from it. The afternoon she chose Cody, she wasn't really choosing a man. She was choosing the loud thing over the true thing, the fireworks over the hearth. And you can't tell the difference between those two by how they make you feel in the moment, because the firework always feels bigger. You tell the difference by watching who's still there on an ordinary Tuesday when there's nothing in it for them. Hugh was always there. Cody couldn't manage 4 days. That's not a riddle. It was written plain the whole time, and Tessa just hadn't built the good sense yet to read it. I didn't refuse to rescue her because I'd stopped loving her. I refused because rescuing her one more time would have robbed her of the only teacher that ever actually works on any of us, which is standing in the mess you made and feeling the full weight of it. A person doesn't grow a backbone by being carried. They grow it by walking when their legs are tired and there's no one coming. 2 years she spent at that garden center, learning to stand on her own feet instead of leaning on mine, and that's where the change came from. Not from anything I said, from the doing of it. And I'll tell you the part that matters most, because I nearly got it wrong. Being decent isn't the same as being soft. I could have folded that day she turned up looking like a ghost and called it kindness, and it would have been the most unkind thing I ever did to her. Real decency sometimes looks hard from the outside. It's holding someone to the truth of what they did while still leaving the door open for them to come back better. Sorry, it doesn't put the bouquet back in your hands. But honest work and a backbone and the wits to know the difference between the loud thing and the true thing, those can build a whole new life, and they did. She earned that cup of tea. Nobody handed it to her.